Thank you, Marilee. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great privilege and pleasure to be here. And I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. How many of you like chocolate? Okay, I think she was the first one to raise her hand. So there's chocolate. Good catch. I want this to be an interactive session, so I have some prizes for you, which means I also need a volunteer. Can I have a volunteer? Yes, Sim, please. Thank you, brave volunteer. So your job for the next 10 to 15 minutes is look for the most active and attentive audience members and give them the chocolate or a t-shirt, or actually it's the tea, but you can trade this in later at Cocoon booth for 1 hour of free mentoring. So there we go. Thank you. For the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'd like to talk about 3 traits of successful founders. And how many of you here are founders? Great. Investors? Employees? Right? Well, turns out it's not just for the founders, but it's for all of us, including superheroes like Batman. And there's a Batman right there as well, actually. It's a really interesting coincidence. So we're going to talk about the 3 traits, and as I mentioned, there's a lot of similarities between Batman, the superheroes, as well as the successful founders or successful human beings in general. So this does not apply just to founders, but to anybody. So how did I come up with these 3 traits? I've had the privilege of interviewing. I was actually going to write a book, and in the process of writing a book, interviewed over like 100 founders and 100 investors. And so it's a result of culmination of working closely with founders as well as through the interview process. So what do you see in this picture? Can somebody tell me what this looks like? Yes?
It looks like a street with hipster lights.
Okay, so he said it looks like a street with a hipster light. But it's kind of difficult to tell, right? Why is it difficult to tell? Because it's lacking focus. So in your business, how many times do you say no to your customers? Or do you say no to your boss or to other co-founders? How many times have you said no today? In order for you to focus, I think saying no is going to be a very, very important part of the tool. I had the privilege, well, it wasn't really a privilege actually. This one founder approached me one time a few years back and asked me to join his company as a co-founder. He had a very successful, or not successful, but he had a first paying client actually, and it's a service business. So I was telling him, okay, let me interview some of your team members. So I went to one of his project manager and asked him, so how are you liking working here? And he says, it's a little bit frustrating. And I asked him, why is it frustrating? And he says, every time the CEO goes and meet the client, he comes back with new functionality and added scope. So I go to the CEO and says, hey, Don, his name was Don, not Donald Trump, but Don. And I asked Don, why is it that there's a constant scope creep? And he says, his answer to me was, well, customer's always right. And at that point, I said, okay, I'm not joining this company. Turns out, he started 3 companies, and all 3 companies failed within first year. So saying no is going to be really important, especially even to your customers. And what do you care about? That's the second question. If you had 1 billion euros in your bank account today, 10 million euros, whatever it is, what would you do? Would you be doing the same thing you're doing today? Would you be in Barcelona drinking, pina colada at the beach? The bottom line is, are you doing what you do if you had 1 billion euros in your bank account today? That also is focus. Some people might call it passion. I call it focus because passion is so overused word. Having said that, I also had one of my first investments. He was very passionate about sustainability and entrepreneurship. For 2 years, it was pretty difficult time because he couldn't really make his ends meet. And he got an offer from this investment bank. And guess what? He took on the job. 3 months later, I get a call from him saying, well, I'm not doing this anymore. This isn't the sustainability entrepreneurship. And he decided to continue to work for the job. So what do you care about? And there is actually the clear picture of, that's actually one of the streets in France, I think it was. What do you see in this picture? Care, thank you. Love, care, relationship between father and an infant. And this speaks to the values. I think shared values is also very important. So do you share your values, similar values with your co-founders, your team members, maybe even your clients? I had one company, 2 years they were struggling, they came to me for help. So I had 2 founders. I asked, during the course of the discussion, I asked them, what is important to you? And the founder A, he says, well, I want to be successful. I want to build a unicorn. Founder B says, I don't give a crap about money. I want to help people. Guess what? 3 months later, they decide to break up. And because of the different visions and different values in the company didn't last. Second thing that I want to speak to with respect to value is culture. Culture, I think we talked a lot about culture, is one of the most underrated yet most important aspects of a company. So how do you define culture? Who do you promote in your company? Do you promote people that you like, or do you promote people that are performing? Who do you hire? Yesterday, Yair gave an excellent presentation on culture and hiring the right people. I strongly suggest that you go and look at the tape. But having said that, how do you hire? How do you fire? Whom do you promote? These are all very important aspects of your company. Do you reward people that take risk and fail? Or what do you do with people that fail? Do you fire them? Or do you encourage them? Third aspect of the traits of a successful people, or for that matter, successful superheroes, is coachability. So imagine yourself in an airplane. So you've never flown an airplane before in your life, and you have a pilot instructor that's sitting next to you, and he's telling you to pull the yoke. Yoke is a steering wheel, basically, in the airplane. If he tells you to pull up the wheel or the yoke, what do? Do you pull it up, or do you ignore him, or do you argue that you should actually push it down? If the instructor tells you to turn left, do you turn left, or do you argue with him? So the question there is, are you the smartest person in the room? Or in this case, are you the smartest person in the cockpit? The cost of being the smartest person in the room is also very grave. I once had a coworker who somebody walks into his office, and if someone says, hey, the sky's blue today, he would say, no, the sky is red because there's a sunset. Next day, someone else comes in and says, hey, the sky's red. He'll say, no, the sky's gray because there are clouds. Yet next day, someone comes into his office, and if they say, the sky is gray, he would say, no, the sky is blue. So you could never get it right with this person because he had to be the smartest person in the room, and he had to oppose everything that was going on in the company or the suggestion. He was not very coachable. Second aspect of the coachability is, of course, the humility. So are you humble Are you humble enough to open your mind and pivot and admit that you're wrong and take the different direction of the company? One of the things that I've learned in working in Asia, in North America, in Europe, is that humility is basically a very well-liked trait. And conversely, arrogance is something that is disliked by most people. So I think coachability is very important. So how do we reconcile all these? So focus, ability to say no, pursuing your passion, no matter, basically doing what you're doing, no matter what you have in your bank account. Values, is it shared with other people in your team? The culture of the company, and the coachability, of course, that has to do with how well do you listen and how humble are you in listening to other people. If somebody were to take a picture of you, what would they say? Would it be caring or love, or would it be something else? So I'm reaching the conclusion already, but Batman. So let's quickly look at Batman. That person with question mark is you, actually, every one of you. And how is Batman, how does he display his focus? Does Batman ever, who's like Batman's biggest villain? The Penguins, the Bane, the Two-Faces, Jokers? Batman doesn't go after you for pickpocketing. Batman doesn't go after people that are driving 170 kilometers and 140 kilometer zone, but he focuses on the bigger pictures. Batman also value, how would you describe the value of the Batman? What does he stand for? Thank you, justice. Justice, truth, and also standing up and protecting the city of Gotham, right? That's sort of his value. And is Batman coachable? Does he listen to other people, or is he just sort of a lone vigilante? Batman also listens to Alfred. He also listens to, I don't know if you saw the Batman Rises, but he was in this pit. And in order to escape the pit, he actually listens to the doctor in the pit. And as he climbed up the pit, he didn't use the rope. So I do have 3 actions to take for you today. So in order to sharpen your focus, do please say no at least once every day. Secondly, write down 3 most important things in your life in a sticky note and post it on your refrigerator and have a look at it every morning and remind yourself what are the 3 most important things in your life. Thirdly, use 3 coins. What do I mean by 3 coins? Every meeting you go to, take 3 coins with you, and every time you speak, move your coin from your left-hand side to the right-hand side, and when you run out of your coins, you stop talking. And if you really want to be the smartest person in the room, take 4 coins with you. So my fellow founders, investors, superheroes, focus, define your values, stay coachable, and be the superheroes that you're meant to be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jin.
And Sim, the volunteer.
Wait. We still have questions. So here is like a competition going on. So let's wait with that. So the first question.
Yes.
Most active listener asks, as a product manager, how do you say no to your CEO who wants to add a nonsense feature to the product?
Sorry, one more time.
As a product manager, how do you say no to your CEO who wants to add a nonsense feature to the product?
Well, I think it's quite easy. Just
No.
go and say no. Yes. And tell them that it's nonsensical functionality and why he thinks that it's nonsensical functionality.
Yeah.
And on that note, if I may add one thing, and this is what I love about Netherlands. When I first came to Netherlands, this CEO wrote a company-wide email. We had like 100 employees at the time. And he said, hey, we should do this in our company retreat. And one engineer says, that's stupid. And he replied all. And I was reading this, I go, oh my God, how is the CEO going to respond to this? For 2 hours in full suspense. And then he responded, well, everybody's entitled to their opinion. And not only that, he was promoted 6 months later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another person called the one who deserves a chocolate asks, oh no, it's not a question even. I saw the Easter egg in the slides. Was it like a competition or something? No? Just for you to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another one, Dave's asks, humility can portray unintentionally weakness. Is ego-driven approach sometimes better?
That is a great point, and that's where the focus comes in, I think. Sometimes humility can indeed be taken as a sign of weakness. But in general, if you're trying to be someone that you're not and project strength when there isn't any, I think it has more negative impact than just being humble in general. Indeed, I think there are cases where you really have to push back on some people, though, depending on who you're dealing with.
Okay. Another question from Mart. Why do some humble people become arrogant after becoming wealthy?
That's a great question. Why do humble people become arrogant? Because they were never humble to begin with.
Great answer.
At least I don't think so.
Yeah. And Mark asks, how would you describe the culture of Apple? Since Steve Jobs wasn't known as the most pleasant human being, and they say that the culture reflects the behavior of the leader.
That's also a very good question. I think Apple has a perception of certain culture, but I think when you actually delve into it, each department has their own culture. So I think culture can be sort of portrayed company-wide, but there are subcultures that exist within the culture. But having said all that, I think Steve Jobs was able to get the company focused, because I think he did say no to like 1,100 out of 1,113 projects. So again, I think there's a focus is a key aspect here also.
Okay. And now we're done with the questions. So, who is the most active listener? Sim.
Sim, where did you go?
Sim is there.
Yes. Please feel free to pass out the prize.
Yeah, who was the one who deserves a chocolate?
Yes, I think we had someone had answer over there. Yeah, and someone here, and someone over there as well.
Congratulations,
yeah.
You deserve a chocolate.
No, second row. Right.
Thank you, Jin Han. Let's give it up for Jin.